Hello, and welcome to another episode of Tomorrow by Design. In this episode, we delve into the history of cities and ways of living, into copy-paste solutions, and how we can reclaim our urban narrative as people of the global south. All this through an honest and bold conversation with a person I think you'd find interesting to listen from. Let's get into it. Hello and welcome to another episode of Tomorrow by Design. Consistency, who this tuko kila siku tunaendelea drop these episodes. And of course I am not alone. This is Louis, by the way. You're talking to Louis. And with me, as usual, is the usual suspects. We have the one starting again, Pole Sana. You're going to be a victim because of your name, first letter of the alphabet. And I am with
You're with Annie Agesa, who will change her name to Zani Zagesa.
Tunasema to reverse order next time. Okay, cool.
And we are also with
Lian Munyori. Zagesa has finished me.
Anyway, and yes, again, we saw Sid, he made a sighting. He'll be here soon. Don't worry about it. Atakuja. Anyway.
At this point, we'd have to find him.
Yeah. Honestly, yeah.
Oh,
And it's been put out there. It's been put out there. It's been cast out there. Now the audience knows what to find.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So let's continue. So today is a very interesting episode with a very interesting person. But before we get to that person, let's set the scene, I'd say. And I want to ask this question to you because I'm also quite curious to know what you think about it. If you had to redesign, let's say Nairobi CBD or your town center, just a shopping center or the town center close to where you're currently, but you could only use inspiration from your cultural heritage, what would that look? I mean, I already have his answer, but I don't want to do it lest I give the doghouse. But anyway.
Please tell everyone because I know it has something to do with food.
And Thamo says, if you saw petrol stations, it's just petrol stations for tea.
Like I was just minding my own business, but to be honest, I was going to say like imaginary food centers, like if the street could have safe places to sit down, and now where the street food vendors are, they those safe places that have places to sit and just be community. So I just buy my small chair and I sit right there, and there's a guy who can serve me tea, and it's just right in the middle of town. There's not too much hustle. I just know I'm in an eating area. So from my culture, definitely an eating thing. You're not in the doghouse.
Yay, okay, cool. But I love that idea. Actually love that approach. No, it's not just buying and then hurrying to eat it wherever you need. Kuna mali unaweza kaa utulie enjoy, savor them street food.
Yes.
No, I love that. I'm with it 100%. And what about you, Lian? I'm curious.
Wow. This is just exposing how much I don't know about my own culture. Oh, wow.
You can pick a culture. You're like a Nairobian, I guess.
Like right now, I'm still stuck on that story for tea rooms. It's so
tea rooms.
You had me
one in town. Because I kept on hearing tea rooms. So in my head, for the first God knows how many years, I thought it was tea, like the letter T. Tea room. So
it's actually
it's an actual tea room where it's like coffee houses, but they're called tea. Why does a person get a whole building, but a tea room is just like a part of the... Anyway, sorry, I digress.
You've told me something actually today. I was with you before. It was like the letter T, then room. I was like, what? Okay. Did not know this.
But I feel like tea should also get full houses instead of just a room.
You want a full-on tea mansion.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
But as for redesigning, can I get back to you in 3 to 4 business days?
Figure out what works.
I'll consult ChatGPT. Everyone,
You'll share with us along with our audience.
You know what I'm thinking right now. So, because for us, watu wadhufu, atumriva na dhufu.
where?
I know if I can use I know Limuru and actually also places on Thika Road, to be honest, because it's that culture. But in the town centers, there's also, it's again, surprisingly, it's food related. But having places where you can just tulia and eat, it's the same concept at the end of the day with what you were saying. So, but places where you can just tulia and eat your food. Or at least, you see, the Chinatown has whole restaurants then in China like that. Which I don't know if kama yetu imebenda town, but at this point it's changed. Things have changed. But anyway, so having a place, a town where the culture revolves around food. For Kikuyus, I know there are places where I know this because I used to do that. Every time when I was needing go to some place where there's a whole town center where they all have just different Kikuyu foods, hizo tumbukiza hizo zote. But this one particular place that we used to go that he really liked, I did not. Reason why I did not is in shortly. So they used to sell soup. There's also soup centers, a lot of soup centers around. Well, I'm calling them centers. Food, soup, mabeza soup.
I think it should also have houses at this rate.
Yeah,
they should have houses at this rate, Mazi.
A soup
it's just
tower.
Different vendors. A whole court. Tunaweza anza na court actually. But anyway, so wanauza supu na wanauza vichwa, the heads, sheep heads. So sheep heads which they boil them to get out the soup. But also for some reason we like eating the heads themselves. So you have the head split, and cooler the insides, the brains, the tongue, everything in between. I think I hated that whole. I hated it. But anyway, what I wouldn't deny was there's this sense of everyone knows each other. They're having a good time. They're just talking, which I think sometimes we lose with cities. If they're supposed to be engines for economy, for social balance, and then also if it's for the environment, you need to be able to foster those. Which I think sometimes mega cities or just big cities in general lose. If you could create some culture around that using food centers, creating this kind of thing. So yeah,
basically spaces that enhance community or encourage people to come together. Because I think a huge part of any smaller African cultures always leads back to community. So we eat together so we can commune together.
Yeah,
we create these spaces for very specific purposes, but really at the core, just us coming together, and that's where our culture shines, right?
Exactly. And even if you're thinking business wise, they keep saying there's this thing I came across which was if you are looking for more business opportunities or the rooms where you find people are closing deals like that are usually mostly relationship. It's you go, you meet somebody been working, you know each other, they tell you, or even your banker or whoever, naenda tu naongelesha tu mbia, by the way, there's a place where you can get a better interest rate for this particular, or there's this place where I got my tiles from. So those conversations like that is whether intentional or not intentional is how most of the times we get new business, and essentially in the long run is now funding within cities in itself. If you think about it, so what better way to foster that through these communities?
Yeah, I feel now I've been inspired this whole story for food.
Oh,
I think I should have so there's sweet bananas. So just have random banana trees. So if in case you don't have money to spend you can just still get food.
Yeah.
So when we were kids and you go out playing and you don't come home till 5, 6. Basically, you're coming back with the sun as the sun.
But to be in the house before the sun goes down.
Yes, but the point is, you were never hungry because there was either a zambarau tree somewhere or someone's avocado tree, especially in those old estates. So you could still eat without necessarily having money on you.
Okay.
So just random. Yes, so just have multiple, well, not multiple, but many banana trees. And they're tiny, so they're also cute. Plus, generally, I just don't like bananas, but I can eat those ones.
Okay, real specific.
I know, but yes. Anyways. So yeah.
Okay, cool. So anyway, it seems like birds of a feather flock. We'll see what surprise chakula related. Anyway, so but I think we might get a different point of view from today's guest, who's somebody again very particular, very interesting. In the sense that they have who they are as a person, who they are within the different spaces they're at. So today, we have a person that we've been trying to get on the episode, or rather, I've been having the idea of having them on the episode for a very long time. Glad that this is happening today. So we have my boss at my day job, which I don't think I have my boss at my I'm doing by anyway. So this should be different. Then also is also in public service and could give us something also how design sustainably. Can everyone over here help welcome today's guests, Nasra Nanda. Shangana
Wow. Makofi. Tiny kilo.
Kilo.
I've never felt people giggle this much when I'm introduced. I'm feeling really good. I would. Hi guys.
Hi.
Thank you for having me.
Karibu
Thank you
sana.
for being here.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Turning up.
Yep. In fact, we want you to start by answering the question that we were talking about before. If there's any insights that you have on seeing how you could redesign a town center using cultural text.
Yeah, definitely. So if I could redesign my town center, then using the roots I carry, which, for the benefit of our listeners, I have Omani heritage, I have Indian heritage, and I'm African. And in particular, I grew up around the coastal strip. And in this regard, then, using those influences, I'd start by having or beginning with shade, because I think in the modern world, the town center is a place you get to your next destination. It's taken away the ability to enjoy a space. So for me, a town center, from my perspective, would be a place where people gather, where time slows down, where you get to enjoy a city, a street, a space. And if I were to take you kind of on a journey with me, just using your imagination, I would have open air courts framed by coral stone. I have a fascination with playing with the elements. So definitely would also have mangrove, wood, and in the coast and a lot of Middle Eastern countries, you have something called mashrabiyas, which essentially are coverings with patterns. And so what they would be used for in the past is to give some sort of semi-privacy. So you have these patterns which allow air in. And that's what I would use to cover certain spaces within the town. So you're not fully enclosed, but you have a sense of privacy if maybe you want to have a conversation with a friend or a small group of people. I would also have benches all over. And I think what I would want our, town centers or city centers to be are spaces that are designed for belonging, connection, life, not just efficiency. And if I were to, just use what would draw me to a town center, for me, it's coffee. And coffee meaning a drink that allows people to talk business. And I really like that you guys were talking about tea. I am mad about tea as well. So I feel, coffee would be useful for the more adult-like conversations where, elders are discussing whether it's politics, whether it's life, whether it's business, whether it's dreams, but have a few fun things that allow children to really play and enjoy the space, and young people, to access culture, to access whether it's dancing, whether it's music. And I feel the town center would be layered to allow different sets of people who are in different, brackets in their life to still get something from that space. And I feel in the modern world, and especially in global north-aligned spaces, our town centers are strictly for efficiency and rushing. And I think for me, that's super important to disrupt. Yeah.
Wrote something very a very important aspect of how the current or we know that a lot of the buildings infrastructure we currently have in major cities like tend to be the ones which were already developed by the British before they left Kenya, or at least before Kenya gained its own independence, and we still use a lot of that even still today. And well, yeah, it feels like it's designed for efficiencies, kabisa. Just go there, get your stuff done, get out, do other errands, etc. So I think there's something that you're alluding to, which I want to see if we get in, and that's one of the things that we lose when we copy-paste foreign urban solutions from foreign urban solutions and bring them to Africa, considering our culture.
Mm-hmm.
When we copy-paste these things, copy-paste solutions from foreign places and bring them without considering culture, and also given that you're both in public service, and with the work that you've done with KGBS and all that, and even in your legal spaces as well, a lot that this person is doing. Where do you see culture shaping sustainable development? How do you think culture could bridge that gap from where we're trying to get to, from where we are to where we're trying to get to?
So the way I see it, you've asked me 3 questions, so I'll try to break it down bit by bit. So just, kicking off from an African perspective, I think you see the biggest scam that was sold to us is that sustainability is a new thing. I disagree. I feel in the African setup, in what you call now in the modern world, the global south, so that's Africa, Asia, Middle East, sustainability is part of our culture inherently. Sorry, did I confirm something that you believe in?
Yes, you very much confirmed something that I'm also very, very much a believer of. Right, Leanne? We are always talking about this.
I know. We what's the PC? Because recently, as last Thursday, we were talking about this, how it got repackaged and then sold back to us as, oh, this is, a
scam,
mad,
right?
Get out the door.
Yeah. And so I think, the first, if you like, question I want to answer is why it's important for us as, people from the global south, or Africans in particular, to really be keen on what sustainability means for us. Number one, if we don't, someone else will, and the global north has, and they will sell it back to us, as you rightly put it, Leanne, they will sell it back to us as consultancy or climate finance. And to be honest, for the global south, sustainability was not a metric, is not a metric, and it's not a buzzword. That came from the global north approach, diversity and inclusion. We've grown up coexisting. They made it a metric for reporting. Working with nature, now we talk about conservation and mitigation and adaptation, but really nature for us was kin. We respected, mountains, rivers, all these things were, if you like, sacred. And so for us, sustainability is not a buzzword or something we learn at school. No, it's something we've grown up with. It's ancestral, right? And it's really the logic of building with mud because it's cool and it's better than concrete, of planting trees, not as an offset, but really as a sacred resource that we knew enabled us to survive. And in turn, we appreciated and looked after because we knew it was a mutually beneficial relationship, right? And we were not passive consumers. Unfortunately, with colonialism, we have become consumers of imported models. And it's this, if you like, disruption of who we are that made us forget this relationship, not just with the world externally, but internally. And this is why I think I mentioned I was a romantic before. I'm very clear in my view that sustainability, or how we treat the things we find outside of us, is directly tied to how disconnected we are with ourselves. And so we became passive consumers of what we felt was better. English seems to be better than Swahili because that's what looked like educated person. So similarly, we left, mud and started building with, cement because we felt mud was beneath cement. And I think it's important for us because if we're clear on who we are, then we know that sustainability for the global south can never look like sustainability for the global north. It was never intended to be, and we were not meant to be passive and let go of who we are. And so the challenge that I have for you guys and listeners is, could we become or start becoming the authors of a future we actually recognize and align with who we are as people? Because that's the only way then we can create the cities and the spaces that work for us and were always meant to work for us. We can never be Americans. We can never be the French. And that's not a bad thing. It just means that they are who they are and we are who we are. What we got wrong is we thought progress was their model. And in that regard, then, answering your second question around, what happens then when we copy paste foreign solutions. Louis, for me, copy pasting like foreign solutions means that we're losing memory, we're losing heritage, we're losing identity, and we lose what could be masked as these small things, but over time are really the sacred, ties that align us with our identity, that help us recognize and create spaces that make us who we are. And when we lose that, then we also start to erase the systems that create the social fabric of our cities and our societies. So if you think about, for example, I'm Muslim. So one of the things that I remember growing up that I don't see anymore is if you went to the mosque with your mom and your mom probably was praying and one of these other elders wasn't, you didn't have to worry about not being safe because another old person within that, space would definitely be watching out for you as a child. However, over time these days, I don't see that happening at the mosque. In part, I believe it's because we've become super individual in our approach. And that just spills over to everything else. We've taken up very, very corporate like Euro-American models of efficiency, which also means then we've eroded community. And that's why personally, I feel that our cities, our spaces, our interactions might start to look aesthetically pleasing, but they feel cold because they've been designed for investors, designed to sell, but not for belonging. And lastly, I think you asked about, my experience around my other hat or policy and planning, and essentially how I see this, shaping Kenya. And, Lou, you've been part of this journey. And I think when we were trying to have conversations around green buildings, I quickly realized there was something wrong with the model. So KGBS is a green building council, and traditionally green building councils educate, advocate, and certify buildings as green buildings. And that was our model for sustainability when I joined. And I quickly felt that there was something seriously wrong with that approach because if we were to take Nairobi alone, 60% of the population lives in informal settlements. So you're already saying that we're ignoring 60% of the population, which doesn't make sense if you're truly trying to enhance, restore dignity. And so we moved away from focusing on buildings to now looking at the built environment as an ecosystem. And that was important because sustainability for me, when it comes to communities, is really about dignity. And you can't have dignity without identity and trust and cultural fit. And when it comes to government, it's really about creating a space or a platform for dignity. And of course, for businesses, it was about prosperity. But that then means that we need to understand sustainability for the Global South is not a metric. It's a journey and it's a partnership. And so we then quickly realized that the uptake for green buildings was not just about you have to have GHG emissions considered. No, it had a lot to do. For example, for Nairobi, when we did our first public kind of project of that magnitude, the only way we got the governor to open up to us in supporting his office become green certified is by explaining to him that in doing so, if you're really serious about having Nairobi recognized as a green capital for Africa, then you have to lead by example. So sometimes it's not that they don't want to assist you. Sometimes it's also not understanding what sustainability from a global north perspective means for Africa. For the global south, it's a demonstration of leadership for, government, but also it could mean saving lives. When we had the flooding in Madare, and that was, I think, one of the hardest times I've ever had in my life. When we were talking about, resilience, in theory, it was, structures need to be secure. And a lot of people felt, well, you guys just want more money from us. But when literally people were swept away from homes, some dying, some losing their savings and livelihoods, it's about the safety of your people. And for me, culture, which could shape and is shaping sustainable development in Kenya, has to have the understanding of what it means for people, which is, dignity really, for governments, which is legacy. And of course, you'll have your pushback. But I often find that politicians, whether they want to be re-elected or whether they want prominence, there is some semblance of wanting to have legacy that they leave behind. And lastly, for businesses, it has to make sense. The metrics around, more technical lingo doesn't move someone. And I think for us, especially in the global south, we move when we are seeing what it means for us from a place of trust and a place of community and partnership. Yeah, I hope I've answered your questions.
You've done more than answer. There's a lot that you've dropped over that. I'd say wondering, there's the things you meant about sustainability actually be rooted in, or what sustainability actually could entity. I want to say code. If I go to the actual points themselves, I think those should be the T flavors for tea room, our conceptual tea room identity.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I love that.
It has made it to the menu.
Yeah, but there's still also some very, very profound and actually very simple points that you bring, especially about how that whole story of that you've given about having to rescues during the floodings and going to really expose. I think at that point Nairobi felt very exposed in the sense that there's a lot of gaps that we have in our infrastructure and just how much we've provided, how much has been provided to the cities as safety through like proper is concerned. I know it doesn't have to get to that point in the first place, but there's lots of serious lessons to that.
Personally, I liked the point of view that even the people at the decision makers at policy level often have the desire to actually leave a legacy, like a good legacy. So seeing that there's still the potential of exploring their humanness when it comes to now working with communities and the people actually using services or whatever the community identity is. I think there's something that links the two. I think if we were to link the two, we would do really good public work together with the people. Yeah.
As to the thought around metrics and that anytime we bring in or rather, anytime we have to look at things in a way that we have to report them back, I don't think it's necessarily the way our culture was, because there are things that you can't quite measure, but they're there. The same way we have, as you have said, Nasra, the buildings we can see they're beautiful, but it feels cold. But how do you measure a feeling, right? It's not something that I can report in a metric because it's reported, right? Yeah. And sometimes that's even how some of the social sciences get a bit of pushback, because the question that is mostly posed is, but is it replicable, right? It's not like a scientific experiment. Okay, I mean, there are some social science, so it's a scientific experiment, but not in the traditional sense where it's a chemical, and I know if I add 3 grams of X plus Y, it'll always give me Z.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Because the way I feel today, even with the same circumstances, might be very different in 2 years' time, just because my age either has changed, my perspective has shifted. But then again, how do we restore the value that is in things that we can't quite measure, the things that we can't see, the things that we can't quantify, because that's what makes life worth living.
100%. And just also tying back to what Nasra was pointing across. At the end of the day, greenhouse gas emissions, even to people who you'd think are corporate, to be honest, don't really care that much about it. It's about it's not that they don't really care that much about it. It's that it doesn't pop. It doesn't give the feeling that you've talked about. To be honest, the feeling at the end of the day is what most of people respond to it consciously, but that's what they respond. So communicating sustainability in a way that you can get businesses on board that are trying to operate in a particular, you can get communities to be on board with and even get support for when you're coming to do like urban projects and stuff, like whether it's even government that you're trying to explain that as well, what it brings to them and all that. If it's better tourism, if it's some sort of money. So learning how to and those lessons, to be honest, are there. Like the points that have been mentioned already. It's like how all those lessons are there from, as has been, from the systems, from the stories we tell each other, ways of life that we had ancestrally. From we had our own definition of sustainability. Again, what Nasra was saying. So for places where colder regions or places where stone wasn't there before, there was mud, there was thatch houses, there was grass thatched, which actually was quite durable. Which the life cycle was actually very astonishing. But we have these things. It's about going back and tapping back, learning from what our ancestors have done, and just continue with that in this modern world. Anyway. Okay, cool. So there's that we've talked about, and there's a lot of lessons there. So anyways, audience, I hope you've gotten nuggets of wisdom to implement. Quick question. Have we seen that in practice? Is there a place we can say right now that might not be like fully there, but is heading towards the right direction as far as rooting local identity within the buildings, the spaces that we've seen? Could be a town locally in Kenya, could be in Africa. I don't know. I'm curious to see if you have any thoughts on it.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think there are spaces which are rooted in African identity. It might not be ancestral, but for example, in Dandora, they do these community-built music stages, and they're doing this without like involving, if you like, built environment professionals. Mm-hmm. So yes, it's ancestral, but it's really the culture found in informal communities and settlements, right? Mm-hmm. So I find that these are acts of spatial or formal resistance. It's their own way of reclaiming dignity and with their limited means, trying to design spaces that create a space for community to come together, right? And for me, I feel one of the biggest drawbacks we have, especially when it comes to self-proclaimed experts, is that we've underestimated the intelligence in informal sectors or informal communities, whether it's the matatu stage or the street kiosk. They're really actually responding to flows of movement. Those are entire ecosystems where people make money on a day-to-day basis. And I think one of our biggest drawbacks is that we refuse to recognize the realities of the global south. What I mean by this is when someone tells you, we only work with the formal sector, we don't really do unorganized or informal specific sectors or investments. Mm-hmm. Often it comes from a prejudice, in my view, that informality is disorder, but it's not. Informality is not disorder. It's, in my view, personally, unrecognized genius, because these are people who have almost nothing and they're creating spaces for themselves to thrive. So, yeah.
Wow. Yeah. And this, again, just because there's a lot that you've said that I actually fully really agree with. The fact that informality and that whole thing, it's about learning. There's a lot to learn from that in short. If we're able to tell our solutions or initiatives, I'm learning to use the word initiatives. A certain someone over here said they don't like the word solutions. Recently learned, but anyway. So if you have initiatives that we're designing, it has to be designed with these informal sectors or economies, to be honest, in mind, with them at the table, ideally. And that way we can truly say that we're building cities that are pro Africa's future and everything. So yeah, I think for me, would I say if there's a place that I know is rooted in identity, its own local identity? Well, I'd say the closest I've seen is in Mombasa, even in the places that are considered modern nowadays, still have that very unique. I think it's just what sets it apart from Nairobi in short. But yeah, that sort of communal community. It's more pro community in terms of how they interact with economies, even when they go to hang out. The places where you'll see groups of people. It's rarely people who are going by themselves. It's always as groups, as gangs or whatever. But yeah, so that I'd say is another one that comes really close. This is very. I'll throw this out there, but this is very ancestral. Don't think they still do live there, but this is in Africa now, looking towards Africa, the larger part of Africa. This is old. What are we calling? Old Cairo. Old Cairo has a lot of history there. Namboni has a lot of churches in one place, which is giving Nairobi some places in Nairobi where have churches after every like block. But anyway, but still, it's not just the density of the churches within itself. It's just mostly the architecture, or the place just screams the local culture over there. So from things as simple as the carvings that they've put in their doors and everything, the patterns, the history of how there was a whole interaction. It was not just a door, it was a door that was gifted after a whole interaction between the local faiths around the ways of living that they had over there. A place is somewhere that screams a lot of culture that's embedded there, and it's hard to miss, to be honest. So I think that's another place that does it very well. I guess you can go ahead and talk about Kakamega.
What?
That laughter came from a very deep place, Louis.
It's very sinister.
The doghouse.
Okay, so hapo nimekubali. Anyway, yeah, I don't know. Is there any other place that you think comes close to that has local identity or anything like that?
I think I've obviously not been there myself, but having like just read about it, Timbuktu in Mali, like, you know, they have a lot of heritage there. I think it has one of the oldest, if not the oldest, library in Africa, and the architecture's like purely ancestral, aligned. And I think in so many ways, like, it demonstrates, or rather disrupts, this perception that poverty, global south, because I don't know if any of you guys were keen on some of the like leading civilizations within Africa. Like, I'm like a big fan of that. So Mali had like the richest man in the world being a king. And it was during his time where he created all these things. And some have, you know, they still like have lasted to date. And for me, what's really cool about that is it disrupts the narrative that civilization was brought to the global south, which really makes me mad, to be honest. But like, and so for me, spaces like that, I feel, disrupt the narrative that, number one, civilization and culture was brought to Africa. Nope. We actually exported a lot of it. You'll find it in the British Museum, which they refuse to return to different places in the world. And secondly, I think just, you know, what you were talking about, whether it's churches or mosques, the continent was just filled with people who valued or saw spaces as platforms for interaction, commerce, politics, debate, whatever you want to call it, but really that had belonging as the anchor for buildings and spaces. And I think there's a lot we can learn. And I wish sometimes that universities encouraged, you know, us learning what happened in the past within the continent. I feel we would have probably understood sustainability in our own contexts a lot more clearly. And I feel we almost have an obsession with modernization because we prize, glass towers as symbols of progress, but ultimately forgetting that our cities, our countries really actually rise and fall because of people and because of, our identity as well. So, guys, I know this is, you guys are the ones asking questions, but I'm so curious to ask you one question. Am I allowed to do so?
Yes, definitely.
Yes, yes.
Spanner in the works. Okay, so I'm going to do a little drum roll. Oh, let's just pretend it's a drum roll. Okay. Now, if you were to answer one question, no filters, okay? Why is it that you think we feel our culture or how we did things is not slick, or it's like a poor man's option rather than a symbol of pride? I don't know if you understand my question.
I do. It's a thinker. It's quite a thinker. I voluntarily honors tribute.
Hey, I am tribute. Wow. I think because we came into a system where we're constantly being told that something else is better, and we haven't had, because we are constantly in the rat race, we don't have enough time to pause and actually interrogate the truth in that. And even further still, we haven't taken time to now rethink, okay, so what about ours is good? And maybe it's also the conversation around efficiency and effectiveness. So now, especially even in businesses, and this is not necessarily to vilify businesses, it's all about efficiency, save time, convenience. But then with that convenience, sometimes we lose the effectiveness of what something is supposed to do, right? So going to the shop gives me more contact with people, and especially now when loneliness is becoming an issue, and then it's pushing mental health issues further up in terms of the numbers. I think we didn't really take the time to think about, okay, so what's actually good about my culture, and why did we used to do the things that we did, how we did them? I guess the why behind it. Because right now, if I think about just wearing like a loincloth instead of thinking about how to put together an outfit for particular events. So, like, sign me up, please. Right? If I don't have to pay for electricity, and okay, maybe that's a bit extra. Well, there was a time, so let me just give a short story. There was a time we were thinking, we were rethinking. So with the rise in AI, if houses were highly automated, and now there's a subscription model to housing. If I don't pay my housing subscription, does that instantly make me homeless? The same way my Wi-Fi cuts out.
Okay. I mean, yeah, by that definition, it would make you homeless.
Definitely. You're done.
Yes. Kila kitu inazima.
Smart home, yeah, everything's unlocked.
Yes.
It's locked rather, yeah.
So, okay, even with development and progress, what are we sacrificing in its place? And I guess it also now ties back to the question of, with the adoption, well, I know sometimes we can constantly keep blaming colonization, and it does have its faults, but are we reclaiming us? I don't even know if I've answered the question. But I still think it's because we probably haven't taken time to just, because when I think about how many times I've sat with my grandma to just ask what she enjoyed about her childhood, I don't even think I've asked her that.
Firstly, and I want to say that my take on you is Number one, brown people would be very happy with you because you kept mentioning cost savings quite a bit. Someone somewhere is marking you as a potential daughter-in-law. I'm just telling you, just because of giving tips. But separately, I think I just had to say it. I was like, wow, okay.
I know you basically just opened a whole can of worms there.
Oh, okay.
Well, but aside from that, and on a serious note, I think the problem is, I think early on it was mentioned, with the modern world, it's about matrix, but in the alternative, we don't have metrics to measure the things we considered important. I tend to disagree in the sense that I feel the metrics we're looking for are heavily based on output, not impact. So, for example, in the older systems where there was community, there were less cases of mental health issues. And the impact of that, there's then less violence, less, crime as well, because a lot of the things that now we're having to deal with in terms of like violence or poverty-related, loneliness-related issues were in the past solved by communities because there were people there who would feel, okay, there's something wrong that I can see Louis is struggling with. The community steps in to ask you and assess. So I feel how we measure also is based on our objective. I feel now we measure output as revenue. Before it wasn't, output. It was how are we creating spaces that were working for everyone and had impact. So I feel that's where even our mindset has changed quite a bit. And then also maybe even our definition of development. I think now we think skyscrapers, working roads are development. And that's not to say they're not. But I also feel development could be also tied to the fact that in traditional systems, there were rarely poor people. You might not have extremely wealthy people, but there was a less, if you like, a less likely chance of extreme poverty and extreme wealth. And so in my take, that means that in the past, more likely, and maybe I'm just romanticizing the past, it was a highly communal setup, which meant that it was less likely for people to be left behind. And my view, that could be development, because in a city, if you have less people who are likely sleeping hungry, that means you are developed. On the converse, in this modern world where it's about output, yes, you have all these buildings, but there are so many people who struggle to even have a meal a day. So are we dissociating people from developed? I don't know. And lastly, to answer your question, yes, you did answer the question. I mean, I don't think there's a right or wrong response. So yeah, I appreciate it.
Cool. Thank you. Yeah, I like that, because we also, the same way Louis was mentioning that the term solution. So even with outputs, yeah, I'd rather outcomes, because what outcome are we trying to get? Is it less of an economic gap between people in the country? Is it, because in as much as we have more housing, I feel like people are more isolated. Oh, do we have more housing? Like, we have more buildings, not necessarily housing. We have more buildings, but people are increasingly isolated. So, damn. Okay, we need to end on a higher note. Someone pick this up, because if I keep talking, it's gonna go south so fast.
No, you're doing good. You're doing good.
Okay, ending strong. Louis?
Cool. I don't think there's Kieza Kumbuka, that episode we recorded back with what's her name? Wangui. And we were talking about, the whole idea was at the COVID, if you think about it, this is one of those ideas that's kidogo out there. But if you really think about it, if you're a fish out of water and you're trying to like create a whole water suit or something to be able to, in the name of efficiencies and whatnot, so you can go to places you normally wouldn't be able to go to. At the end of the day, you'll still feel kyodo or somehow you'll always feel like there's something that's missing. You're not in touch with your roots. And the only way you know that is if you like really stop, really think about what Liana was talking about, alluding to at some point. Really think about what we value as people who've interacted with these spaces. On to go just beyond defining it as African, but just as somebody who's interacted with that space that you've known for the longest since birth, or since your previous generations have done. So grounding, that whole thing, you talk about grounding and everything, you just really need to think about it at the end of the day, that we have this potential, we already have these skills, we know them, albeit they're still very heavily westernized, but we still intrinsically, through the interactions we've had with our grandparents, with the people that still seem to be very pro-African or pro their culture, we still have those skills or know how to put them into practice, I'd say. So it's not lost, it's there. I mean, goes again back to most of the conversations we've already had. Every city has its own vibe, which for Kenyans, as much as we complain about almost everything, at the end of the day, we keep saying that Hatuwezi toka huku because of the culture we'll be able to create in the different spaces we've had. So, well, there's much more to be done. For our audience, I know you know what that particularly speaks to you. It could be either specifically in biophilia, seeing how you can include more plants, more everything in our designs. It could be the actual hardscape, the hardware in its sense, like coming up with creative African patterns for building materials, or even as renderings of the building itself. It could be art, it could be whatever. So but yeah, I hope this episode has been very, or at least insightful, has piqued your interest, has made your brain think kidogo. Tumetingiza akili kidogo. And yeah, if you think there's anything that we have missed out that you'd like to add, you always know where to find us. On TBD_Kenya on all our platforms. That's Twitter, IG, LinkedIn, I think TikTok as well. Yeah. So, yep, that's it. Sidhani kuna neno parting shots moja haraka ya kuenda for the road. Tukianza na, before we go to the guests akipeana parting shot yake, tutaanza na wengine wote. So, we'll go reverse order this time, starting with Liam.
Yeah, we need to put out that menu, sustainability, the list of the teas that we'd be serving at tea room.
The list of the teas that we'll be serving at tea room. Okay.
Yes.
Actually, there's that. And also, as you're going around, you should also mention one practice you think we should preserve, or a trend that we should just get rid of, Yani. That's not making sense for our context, to keep in our parting shots before we get to the guest.
Oh, so either preserve or
ditch.
Or ditch. Okay. The benches outside Kinyosi's.
Yeah.
I don't think I see those anymore.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think we need to bring that back.
Baba shop.
And maybe other things. Yeah, exactly. Because I think it was a symbol of just people hanging around. Because nowadays we see a lot of no loitering, and there's a lot of architecture that is also trying to dissuade people from just sitting down. But just having that bench outside a kiosk or the barber shop, and a barber shop could be symbolic for other types of commercial spaces that are a bit more community centered, because that's also how you get to know your neighbors, I would say. Yeah, so let's bring that back. And then we can get community, like tea about the community.
Community added to the list.
Yeah, I'm done.
Deep has your chocolate to meskia.
It really does.
Anyway, Annie.
Oh, I thought it was alphabetical order. Okay, I'll go.
Wait. Yeah, nimejitoa kwa mix, but yes.
I think unpopular opinion, but I think the way people are going to CBD to hang out, take pictures on Sundays. Have you ever seen how packed it is on Sundays?
Yeah.
It's like a function is kind of happening. I think that should be preserved. Mm-hmm. Maybe a few more controls, or a few more, what do I call them? We relax some things here and there, but I think untapped market for something. or at least that's a community that's yet to be properly explored. So I think that should stick around. Let's see how it morphs. But yeah, with that, the parting shot is let's keep finding ways in our spaces. Let's keep creating ways to belong in our spaces. Yeah, that's what it is. Thank you.
Cool. So just before we get into Nasra to give her parting shots, and also one quick span I'll throw in the works as she gives her parting shot. I'd say, you know what's the one thing that I would like to see more of, or I think would be really good if we had more of in Kenya, in most of our towns, is having more and more symbols of the local community or identity. Very easy example, all of the monuments that we have in CBD right now. We have what's the three boys over there? No, Itanga Lost Boys. Sijuange, the actual name of the monument.
I also don't remember, but I think they fought in the war. Yeah. One of the war.
So that monument, I know kuna watu labda wamekasirika kidogo, usijali, I'm trying to remember the name. So but that monument over there, there's the Tomboya one, of course, Uko Archives. There's my favorite, and I'm sure also probably Annie's favorite, the Dedan Kimathi one, has come through many times. Symbols that remind us of where we've come from as a nation, of our own different identities. Could be an actual tribe, or could be just the location itself, the physical location as Nairobi. If we could have more of those and throw in the spanner of now designing our towns and even public spaces around it from that monument itself as the nucleus, I'd say, would be really cool actually to see. So yeah. So for now, for Nasra, as you're giving your parting shots, tunataka pia kujua, what's that one thing that young Africans should start doing right now to be able to reclaim their urban narrative?
Firstly, before I dive into my parting shot, I just want to say thank you guys. I really enjoyed this conversation. You guys were awesome, and I had a lot of fun. So I think I have two questions to answer. So the practice to preserve or ditch, I think for me, I'll go for preserving. I think we need to preserve the concept of Ubuntu. Collective care always worked best for the Global South. I think we need to make sure we protect that and scale it up across the board. And in terms of the one thing young Africans should do to reclaim their urban story or narrative, guys, I just want to say, look, we need to stop waiting. So if you're listening in, stop waiting, start naming what it is you want, your space in your city, in the market you want to shape. And in the context of the urban narrative, I think it doesn't have to be big. You could just start off by, knowing about your neighborhood's hidden history. Start picking up the stories of your city, your town. Start looking for, what memories, voices, or unique things around you have a role or played a role in shaping your city, your town. And you don't really need a degree to shape your city. It's great to have one, but it's what you do with where you are and what you want that really makes the difference. So no one's going to do that for you. And I think the time to act was yesterday, and the next best time is now. Yeah.
Love that. So you had it here, folks. Ditch school. I'm joking. Anyways, yeah, so thank you very much for being with us in the episode. And I think this is it. At that point, I really don't like, but I have to anyway, which is goodbye. But I'll
thank you, guys.
Yeah, I'll let, I don't know if you have anyone who's over here who can say goodbye.
Can I do it in my own unique way? Can I?
Ooh, okay. First, yes, let's see.
First, I need you guys to sing. I mean, I feel like
I need to be
my God. Okay, I didn't see that one coming.
Okay, the fake drum roll then. Come on. Thank you. All right. So we just had an amazing conversations where we were talking about the front lines of policy and culture. Of course, with a romantic at heart and a rebel in spirit with these three incredible guys. And so if you genuinely want to learn about what really shapes our cities, this conversation was honest, it was bold, it was fun. And it's the only place, that is this podcast, where culture gets political, planning gets personal, and of course, Africa gets to dream young and proud.